Hi, this is Muho. I'm gonna continue with my teacher's house. That's Edward's winter report. And we continue with the money problem. Last time it was only one question by Edward and a kind of long answer by myself. What was the question? What was the issue here with the money? Um, I remember that when I became the abbot of Antaiji 18 years ago, one of my senior Dharma brothers asked me, "Do you know what is most important at Antaiji? Do you know what's going to be the most important issue for you when you become the abbot of Antaiji?" And I thought maybe he means Zazen, maybe he means the Buddha Dharma, maybe he means Samu skills. And I was surprised when he said money. Money, it's all about money. Because for myself and probably many people who come to Antaiji, they have the idea, well, life is not about money. That's why we practice the way we practice at Antaiji. We let go of this attachment. But my senior Dharma brother said, well, there's no money in the temple register. You're gonna need money, and not only to pay the bills, but also the buildings are in bad shape. It's okay now, but who knows, in 10 years, in 20 years, major repairs and replacements maybe need to be made. But there's no money there and there's no sources of income. And this problem, well, existed already before me, before I became the abbot, at the time of my teacher, Miola Roshi. It seemed to have been one big issue, but we training monks were never really aware of the seriousness of the problem. I never really thought it was a serious problem until at one point, and that's what I talk about in the last answer, my teacher, for us it was something like a koan. Our teacher gave us this koan, Antaiji needs money. Usually when we need money you go begging, takuhatsu. I want you to become self-sufficient without begging, without takuhatsu. How are you going to do that? And people came up with all kind of crazy ideas. I personally sold some vegetables to people connected to Antaiji. We had this yearbook, and I put in this letter with the yearbook. We have potatoes, we have daikon radish, we have carrots. If you like, we can sell those to you. And people were kind of happy to do that, but then Watanabe Roshi was critical of that, and he said it's like, well, throwing fish in a pond only to later fish them out again. So it's basically, well, if you have this community of friends of Antaiji, and they feel certain obligation towards Antaiji, and then you say, we have vegetables to sell, then of course they're gonna buy them. And then you get a certain amount of income through that, but can you really call that, well, self-sufficiency through agriculture? Probably the same people would give you money even if you just ask them, can you give us the money, and we don't sell you any vegetables for that. Okay, so after I became the abbot, in the beginning there were, as far as I remember, maybe $900 or so in the temple register. So that was hardly enough to pay all the bills until the summer, and then in the summer we usually help a big temple in the south of Japan during the Obon festivities. Obon is a time in the middle of August where the Japanese all visit their homes, their parents, and pay respect to the ancestors and visit the graves. And usually they call a Buddhist priest to their houses. And well, almost all households in Japan do that. So that means that the priests are really busy. It's a 3-day period. And Antaiji, although we don't have our own parish, we help out in other temples. And you get a lot of donations. So usually in the summer we get about $3,000 of income through these Obon festivities. So during the first year it was first about how do I make it until the summer with $900, and then with $3,000 I could make it until the year end, and at the year end I would do takuhatsu. And then thanks to the internet it got easier, because now, as you can see on our homepage, we have a PayPal page. People can support us through PayPal, and people actually do that. And it helps to pay the bills. So I never had any problems paying the bills after the first year. So the first year was a kind of tight financially. Then from the second year, the temple needs, well, if there's few people, maybe $10,000. If there's lots, maybe $20,000 per year, but that's enough to pay the bills. I never had any problems with that, but I had the idea, well, if I run out of money or people don't come to Antaiji, I can always go back to being a homeless in Osaka. There's also always that option. But if I'm going to do it, and if people come, and if I have students, then ideally I would try to solve this money problem. And I also try to solve this problem that Antaiji needs to get renovated at one point. So if it needs to get renovated, it would be nice if I could do it during my abbey. But that was a vision that I never realized. So I never could do that. I was kind of saving money towards that. And when next year Eko-san is going to become the abbess, she has a small amount of funds that I saved, but it's hardly enough for any big repairs. There's some funds for small repairs. So the problem is still there, but it's not as intense as it was. And kind of one point I'm making here in this interview is that, well, Miyarura Roshi, my teacher, found himself in a very tight situation that his teacher, Watanabe Roshi himself, never experienced. There was always money there at his time. And when Miyarura Roshi tried to, well, in my idea, make that into a koan for us, and also try to make us become serious about our life in Antaiji, by saying, hey, you need to become self-sufficient. Also, Watanabe involved himself again by telling me, don't fish in a pond where you already know that there are fishes there for you. So Edward asked the question at this point, were you having one-to-one discussions with Watanabe? Yeah, that started at that time, is my answer. That thing about the fishes in the pond is something he told me directly, but I don't know if he triggered this whole thing, the no more takuhatsu policy. So I think we're talking about 1997, 1998. After I came back from Hoshinji to Antaiji. And I visited Watanabe at that time, and we exchanged letters. And pretty soon after that, this no more takuhatsu thing started. But again, I'm not sure if it was Miyarura's idea or if Watanabe had anything to do with it. I could imagine him saying such a thing. So I could imagine that maybe Watanabe also had this idea. But at his time, Antaiji was never really self-sufficient. They lived off the resources they had when they sold Antaiji in Kyoto. They tried selling vegetables in the beginning, but never really succeeded at it. They never made a profit, but they still had the idea they were living self-sufficiently and said it was successful. I've never seen any proof, though. If you look at the books, the bookkeeping of the time, there was no substantial profits made. They actually lost money through farming. And next question. Were you the most senior person at this time? For the first year of this no takuhatsu thing, I had a senpai, a senior Dharma brother. He was the one who had the idea with the cows, which met resistance with the person that was actually responsible. That was an American guy who lived at the time in Antas. He took care of the cow, but he didn't want to take care of 10 cows. He said, well, you should put myself into my shoes. I'm raising the cow and the calf every year only to sell the calf off. And then during Zazen, during session, I hear the cow moo and moo and moo because the cow's missing her calf over the weeks. And you want me to do that 10 times. 10 times a year, you want me to experience that. I'm not going to do it. So after the cow idea couldn't be realized, the first monk came up with the charcoal idea. In the end, he never even built a fire pit for the charcoal. He traveled around Japan to learn about charcoal burning, but when he came back, he said, pretty soon I'm getting married. The first guy who was a student of Miyaura donated $2,000 towards this charcoal thing, but nothing came of it. In Kutayama, people were also making charcoal and selling it in Hamasaka or maybe even in Tottori. There was a small boom to burn your own charcoal. After the charcoal thing failed, the first monk left, and then I became first monk. Question, and that was his only reason for leaving? Answer, it was the trigger. There was a lot going on between him and the abbot. This often was the case. The first monk has a lot of responsibility and gets criticized. You're not only responsible for your personal practice, but the whole atmosphere. If the young monks are loose, you need to keep them in shape. Miyaura would express his dissatisfaction a lot with the first monk. A lot of his criticism wasn't really justified. He had his own ideas. What I heard from my seniors was that to earn money, you have to invest money. You cannot earn money if all the machines are broken. My seniors wanted to throw this all out and buy new stuff. Miyaura felt we should repair things and do our best with the stuff we had. He wasn't like Watanabe, who spent 4 million on the place. In the beginning they bought strange things like this huge winch and metal rope that you could connect to the mountaintop and cut trees to send down here. This rope and the winch cost $100,000. It's still sitting in the barn. They used it once or twice, but realized it was too much work to carry the whole thing up the mountain. It's a dangerous job, and we only need about a dozen trees per year. In the end, the winch was unnecessary. Miyaura would sometimes say, if we had that money now. At the time, they were throwing it away like nothing. The first monk was saying, we don't have that money now, but maybe we should at least buy a new chainsaw, buy a new plow. Then we could earn some money back. Okay, so much for today. Have fun with the text. I'm gonna continue. As most of you know, my idea of putting this online is not to say bad things about my teacher or my teacher's teacher or their teacher. It's about, well, the reality of running a Zen monastery, and it's not all about shikantaza and letting go and being one with the universe, but you have to pay bills also. And that can be a koan. think somebody somewhere in the comment section commented it would be good if you in Antaj you wouldn't have that problem. And I agree to a certain degree. Yeah, personally, personally, I would say it would be good if we wouldn't have that problem. But on the other hand, maybe yes, it is good that we have the problem because it brings us down to earth again. Like when you're on the spiritual path, what brings you on the path and what keeps you on the path is probably at first this question, why do we have to play this game that everybody is so busy playing? More money, more sex, more happiness, more friends on Facebook, more followers on Twitter than I am following, the same on Instagram. Everybody is so busy playing that game, but what's gonna happen when the game is over? At one point the game is over and you can't take the money with you, you can't take your followers with you, you can't take your Facebook friends with you. When you're gone, you're gone. There must be another way to live than to busy yourself with this game. And then you sit down on the cushion, and in a way you could say that Zazen means to stop the game. You stop the game and you realize, wow, life is so much more fun when you stop playing the game. It's not about winning or losing that game. But then, and that's why I say maybe it's good that we have the money problem, is at least in Mahayana Buddhism, it's not about one person stopping the game and feeling, wow, now it's so much easier. You need to get back into the game and help the other players to also wake up from the game. You help the other game players to also realize this is just a game. It's not about winning or losing. It's not about gaining the top score. And you do that by playing again, but you change the rules a little bit. You play in a different way. And these new rules are, simply speaking, the rules of a bodhisattva, which, for example, means to give. You give rather than take. And at first people might think, oh, this guy must be stupid. He's playing in a stupid way. That guy is losing points. That guy doesn't know what the game is all about. But by giving, and that's why giving in Buddhism is such an important practice. That's the first of the paramitas. You play the game, but with the opposite rule. You're kind to people. You help people. You don't make differences anymore. You need to get back into the game. Try to play that game, but with different rules. But that's easy to say. In reality, it takes quite a lot. And the money problem is something that makes you realize that. So, in a way, you could say, thanks that we have the money problem. Because the money problem does not allow you to just excuse you from the game. Although I would say, at least for the first 2 or 3 years of practice, it's good. It's good not to have the problem and to just let it go. But the problem comes back. Okay, so much for today. See you.